talking about Mercury is in retrograde. I don't even know what the fuck that means, but check this out.
Back it up, retrograde like Mercury.
The Commonwealth alleges that Karen Reed said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," and that we were going to hear testimony from multiple first responders to that effect. In part 1, we went through the first 2 paramedics' testimony. They were quite long, they go back and forth in direct and cross. We also went through the video that was shown on the stand. In part 2, we're going to cover the final 3 testimonies from the paramedics that were on the scene when Officer John O'Keefe was found.
And that individual that you observed with red stuff that you thought could be blood around her mouth, what, if any, observations did you make of her as far as her demeanor or anything like that?
She was just acting kind of erratic and kind of running around screaming different things.
And as far as the different things that she was screaming, what, if anything, do you recall specifically hearing her screaming when she was running around?
It was just something like, "He's dead, he's fucking dead."
Is that something that she said once or more than once or something?
At least twice.
As far as that sort of phraseology, was that consistent throughout?
I would say so, yes.
And while you were on scene, it was the woman who had the blood around her mouth who appeared to be most upset, correct?
Correct.
She was really upset, correct?
Yes.
Would you go so far as to say she was distraught,
Yes.
hysterical,
Yes.
frantic?
Yes.
And you heard her say, "He's dead, he's fucking dead," something like that, correct?
Correct.
And she didn't say it in the tone of voice that I just said it, correct?
Correct.
She was screaming when she said that, correct?
Correct.
It was very easy for you to discern that her words were, "He's dead, he's fucking dead," correct?
Correct.
And she repeated it more than once, correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say that at no point in time did you ever hear her say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me, sir, that you have been extremely consistent in terms of your memory of what she said, correct?
Correct.
You've been asked these questions not for the first time by Mr. Lally or me in court today. There have been other occasions where people have asked you, what did the woman with the blood on her mouth say when she was on scene, correct?
Correct.
See, paramedic Matthew Kelly, short and sweet. Next up is paramedic Francis Walsh.
And did you yourself have any conversation with either of the 2 females that you saw?
I did not directly, no.
And you just testified a little bit before that they were upset. Is it so that both of them were?
Yes.
And what, if anything, leads you to that sort of conclusion as far as their demeanor? What, if anything, did you specifically observe?
I mean, I observed one of them like screaming and crying, and they were both just frantically like moving around a lot.
As far as the one that you observed screaming or crying, do you recall specifically what, if anything, that person said?
All I recall her saying was, "Is he alive?"
I just want to ask you about the woman that you saw on scene who appeared to be screaming and crying. Would you agree with me that she stood out to you because she appeared to be the most upset
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
and the loudest?
Yes.
She appeared to be crying more than others,
Yes.
and she was screaming, right?
Yes.
And what you heard her say, I understand your testimony, was that she just said, "Is he alive?" Correct?
That's what I recall. Correct.
In a loud voice,
Yes.
in a distraught voice,
Yes.
while she was crying.
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Another short and sweet testimony, straight to the point. In fact, that probably was the shortest cross by the defense in the entire trial. We have one more paramedic up, and you guessed it, it is paramedic/firefighter Katie McLaughlin.
And as you're asking those questions, what, if anything, is the defendant Ms. Reed doing while you're asking those questions?
She answered who the patient was, his birthday. I think she answered the maybe some of those initial medical questions that I asked. But as I said, she's very distraught. She was kind of moving around the scene a little bit, so I was like just kind of following her, and then we came to a stop at one point, and I continued to ask one more question.
What was that one more question?
So at that point, I asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this.
What if anything she said?
So she said, I hit him. She repeated it. There was a woman standing across from her who I believe at that point said, you're hysterical. You need to calm down. You're hysterical. She repeated, I hit him. And there was a police officer who was in that vicinity kind of with us who replied, you what? She repeated it one more time. And that officer then signaled to somebody, get Goody down here, which I'm assuming would be the sergeant.
Once you received that information, did you follow up with any other questions to Ms. Reed at that point?
At that point, I did not. I have to drive the ambulance, so it's a time-sensitive situation. So I knew I had to drive the ambulance. It was said in the presence of the police officer, so I felt like that was the appropriate, that information was appropriately transferred. And I just felt, based on her demeanor, I don't think it would have been productive for me to continue to ask her questions at that point.
And so after asking and receiving that answer of I hit him, where did you go?
So I went to the ambulance.
And in reference to the ambulance, did you go to the back of the ambulance, front of the ambulance? Where did you go?
So I went to the back of the ambulance where the patient care was happening.
And as far as the information that you had received from the defendant, did you relay that information to any of the other firefighters from the department in the back of the ambulance?
I did.
And, recall who was there in the back of the ambulance when you relayed that?
Tony was there. Tim. I think maybe firefighter Kelly, firefighter Walsh maybe might have been in there at that point.
Based on Katie McLaughlin's direct testimony only, is it possible that the other firefighters who claimed that they heard, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, got that information from Katie McLaughlin? To hear her describe it, the conversation took place at the end of that video. Remember back to the video we watched prior, where she's standing there with the officer, Karen Reed, and someone else. That's when the conversation takes place. That's when Karen states it. And then she gets into the ambulance and tells the other paramedics. Is it possible? Let me know in the comments. Here is the cross.
As Mr. O'Keefe was being transported by ambulance, you were instructed by firefighter Flamati to get information about the victim, Karen Reed, correct?
He wasn't being transported by the ambulance at that time. He was on the stretcher. And Tony, who was at the head of the stretcher, asked me to get information from Miss Reed about the patient, but he wasn't being transported in the ambulance at that time.
Who's Tony?
Firefighter Flamati.
Got it. When you did you follow those directives?
I did.
When you finally approached Miss Reed in order to get that medical history as best you could, what did the scene look like? Who was with you or around you?
So they started to move the stretcher towards the ambulance. Miss Reed was sort of, I guess I would describe it as moving around the scene. So she was moving, kind of going in circles. So I was really just focused on her, trying to get her to converse with me and get those questions. So that I wasn't really noticing anything else at that point. I was more just trying to contact her, and she was moving around.
What were you wearing at the time?
I had my like winter fire jacket on.
What color is it?
It's yellow and red.
Bright yellow for safety purposes.
Yes.
When you began your actual questioning, once everybody sort of stood still, you began your questioning of Miss Reed. You were standing in one spot. Miss Reed was standing to your right. Is that right?
Well, the questioning started, as I said, she was moving around the scene. So the questioning was ongoing as she was moving around to different locations. I don't know exactly how many of the questions I got out during the time that she was moving around. At one point, we did come to a stop. And at that point, she was to my right.
That's the point I want to focus your attention on, if I could. When you came to a stop, that's the point at which you recall the statement being made that you attribute to my client.
Yes.
Okay. And in that group, who was there? I want to make sure I understand this exactly.
So there was Miss Reed to my right. There was a civilian woman to my left. There was a police officer who was not directly across from me, but I would say maybe diagonal to me, closer to Miss Reed.
Your Honor, I'm holding a photograph. This is shown to the Commonwealth. May I approach?
Yes.
This is often a still photograph. I'm going to ask you to take a quick look at that photograph and look up after you've studied it for a second and tell me if you recognize.
I recognize people in it.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes. Is this an exhibit, or are you moving to introduce it?
I'm moving to introduce it. It has not been introduced as yet.
Okay. So go ahead and have the witness adopt it first.
Sure. Do you see the person closest to Fred? Closest to Karen?
Yes.
In what appears to be a yellow and red jacket.
Yes.
Who's that?
That would be me.
Who's to your right?
It appears to be Miss Reed,
And to your left?
a civilian woman,
And across, as you said, sort of diagonal, closer to Miss Reed is.
a police officer.
Do you know that officer's name, by the way?
I don't know his name.
Okay. Your Honor, with that, I would ask that this be marked as next in order.
Okay. Is there any objection?
No objection.
This is a moment in time. It captures a moment in time when you're standing there. To your right is Karen Reed, which you've described. To your left is a civilian female, which you've described. And across from you is an officer, which you've also described.
Yes.
So this would be the time or close in time to the time that you heard the statement that you attribute to Miss Reed, correct?
Yes.
The first time you ever made that official report, or an official report to law enforcement regarding that statement was January 30th, 2022, correct?
Well, yes and no. The statement was made in front of the police officer, so that would technically be the first time that statement was made to a police officer in my presence. And then, yes, I testified to it on January 30th, as you said.
You said it on January 30th. You weren't testifying under oath, correct?
Okay. Said it.
Okay.
Yes.
My question was really, and I appreciate you clarifying, my question was really the first time you actually told this statement to any law enforcement officer was on January 30th.
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down. That was when you met with Trooper Michael Crockett, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that was very close in time to the event. It was the next day. Is that right?
Yes.
The events were close.
The 29th. Yeah. So it would be the next day.
Right, 29th, 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. The events were fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
You obviously knew about the importance of that interview. You knew that it dealt with a police officer who had passed.
I knew it was important to talk to the police about what I heard.
And you wanted to be accurate.
Yes.
You wanted to be as detailed as you possibly could.
Yes.
And you understand that memories, obviously, they get a little worse with time, not better with time, right?
Sure.
The closer in time you are to the event, the fresher your memory is going to be about the details of that event. You would agree with that, right?
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor the day after the event, on January 30th, that the statement that you attribute to my client was actually made to the female, not to you in response to your questioning. That's what you told Trooper Proctor, correct?
I don't have those notes in front of me, so I don't know that I can tell you that that's correct, but the statement was made in response to my question. However, the Miss Reed was looking at the civilian woman as she said that.
Does it refresh your recollection that what
Don't read what you think refreshes a recollection. You can show or you cannot read it. Yes.
take a look, highlighted portions of that report, and look up when you're finished.
Okay.
Ma'am?
Sure.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection about what you told Trooper Proctor on January 30th?
Yes.
And you told Trooper Proctor,
No,
quote,
let her.
In turn-
Hold on. I'll see it second.
turned to her friend and stated, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. End quote. Correct?
Okay.
Is that yes?
Yes. If you're saying that's in quotation marks in that, then yes.
That's what's in the report.
Okay.
And you don't have to agree with me. I'm asking yes or no questions. Not okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was that Karen Reed looked at the female to your left and said 4 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Correct?
Yes.
And have you since learned that the name or identity of the female that was standing to your left?
No.
You're aware that the female that was standing to your left reported the exact same statement?
No.
Are you aware that the female standing to your left reported that exact same statement as, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Did I hit him?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You then went back to the ambulance after you heard that statement that you believed you heard my client say.
Yes.
You opened the ambulance door, correct?
Yes.
That was the back door,
The side door.
the side door. And there were two firefighter paramedics in that ambulance at the time, correct?
I believe there were more than 2 at that time.
2 of them included firefighter Nuttall and firefighter Flamani.
Yes.
And at that point, you told them what you believed you had just heard.
So I went into the back of the ambulance. I said, this is his name. This is his date of birth. She says he doesn't have any medical history or allergies, doesn't take daily medications. And then I said, she's saying I hit him. And firefighter Nuttall motioned to his face and said something.
Ask another question.
So the answer to my question is yes, you told in front of Flamani and Nuttall the phrase, I hit him.
Yes.
Like that in any report?
I don't write a report in this scenario of my job.
Let her finish the answer, please.
So there are 2 people that will write reports in my department on a call. One being the lead paramedic and the other being the officer who's on scene. So those are the people that write reports, and I was neither of those, so I did not write that in a report. Okay. That's correct.
So let me ask the question again. You didn't write it in any report?
No.
You didn't write it in any notes?
No.
You didn't document that statement in any way whatsoever, correct?
Other than my interview with Proctor and my subsequent testimony.
You didn't document that statement in any way yourself, did you?
No.
Since January 30th, in that conversation that we just talked about with Proctor, your statement has evolved. Is that right?
I don't know how to answer that.
You testified yesterday to something quite different
Not quite different.
than what you testified. I'm sorry, than what you stated to Trooper Proctor.
Respectfully, I think my testimony has been pretty consistent.
You testified to something yesterday quite different in context than what you told Trooper Proctor. Isn't that right?
I don't know that that's right.
Well, you told Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed looked at a female standing to your left, said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Right?
Yes.
Yesterday, you told these jurors that Karen Reed said, I hit him, and an officer said, you what? And she repeated, I hit him, and the officer immediately turned and went to find another sergeant. Is that right or no? Yes or no?
No, there was more to that testimony.
That's not what you said yesterday?
I think I said more than that, than what you just repeated.
Is what I said consistent with what you said yesterday? There's a lot of things that you said. More of. I'm asking, is that the sum and substance of what you told these jurors yesterday?
Yes.
So you would agree that from that time till yesterday, your story has evolved. It's changed.
Would I agree with that? I don't know that I agree with that.
You think the story that you told Trooper Proctor is exactly the same?
I understand what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
So has your story evolved?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
We have not yet heard the testimony from that witness that was standing next to paramedic McLaughlin. In my opinion, after compiling all of the testimony from the law enforcement officers and from the paramedics, Katie McLaughlin is the only one that heard that. And possibly this civilian witness, who I believe is Jim McCabe based on other stuff in that video. Again, that's just my opinion. What do you think? How do you think the other, 2 firefighters that heard her say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? How do you think they heard that information if they were in the back of the ambulance at the time she made the statement? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.